what's up, Seventyne here, taking a look at Dead by Daylight, a 4v1 style multiplayer game similar to the likes of Evolve in its base format, currently being developed by Behavioral Digital Incorporated, the same guys that have worked on titles like Far Cry 3, Shadow of Mordor, and even Star Citizen. Dead by Daylight puts you inside of a horror movie as you play as either one of the survivors or as the killer. The game plays out on a relatively small map that's shrouded in a mystical fog, with the exits currently unoperable due to all the generators that run them currently being offline. As the survivors, you'll have to get 5 of these generators up and running again before there'll be enough power to power the exit doors, allowing you to attempt your escape. Unfortunately though, these generators do take some time to repair, and they also have a nasty habit of misfiring extremely loudly if you fail one of the random skill checks that are thrown at you numerous times while repairing. It's basically the circular reload skill mechanic from Gears of War that requires a fairly good amount of concentration to get right, and when topped off with the added pressure of being hunted, it can be surprisingly difficult to hit. There is a slight ding sound before it pops up though, so you're not caught completely unaware. To make things even worse, failing the skill check will set you back a fair way from completing the repair, so it really is vital to your survival to get those skill checks right. Once you've repaired 5 generators, the 2 exits will be highlighted for you and whoever is left with the survivors so they can attempt to make their escape. If you're the only survivor left, you do still have a chance of escaping via a hatch that'll unlock somewhere on the map, so you don't have to try and bring up numerous generators all by yourself. The problem with this mechanic though is that some players will decide to just camp somewhere and do nothing while they wait for the rest of the team to die before making their escape via the hatch, which can be annoying, but hopefully won't happen all that often. On the flip side, playing as the killer, you'll want to be doing everything you can to stop the survivors escaping and instead sacrifice them to your gods or some strange Cthulhu shit that reaches down from the sky to take their souls. It'll take a couple of hits before a survivor will finally go down, and swinging your weapon can be costly as it will slow you down significantly, allowing the survivor to possibly get away. Once they are down though, you'll be able to pick them up and take them to one of the many hooks found around the map where you can place them to be sacrificed. On the way there, the survivor can attempt to wiggle free, but unless the nearest hook is a fair distance away, they will still probably get hooked. The survivor can still escape from this position though, whether it be from an ally that'll free them in a matter of seconds, or it could be that the hooked survivor gets lucky on a self-freeing move that has about a 5% chance of actually working. Failing to self-free yourself from the hook brings big penalties though, losing almost half your remaining health and time to stay alive and be rescued, so it is a pretty risky move. In terms of the chase, you as the killer do move faster than the survivors, even when they're sprinting, so it is fairly easy to catch up to them given there are no obstacles lying in your way. Survivors though are a little bit more acrobatic than the killer, allowing them to quickly jump through windows and knock down objects to hinder the killer's chase at least for a short while. Once the chase has been engaged, it will be very difficult to escape, as while you're sprinting as a survivor, you do leave behind a glowing trail for the killer to track you down with, so you'll have to be extremely sneaky to get away. The killer does have access to their unique item to help them out, which for the one playable during the beta was bear traps that would cripple anyone who stepped on them, providing as a great tool to block certain predictable paths. Sound in the game plays an extremely important part in Dead by Daylight, with survivors being alerted to the killer nearby by the heartbeat, and knowing when someone in the group is hooked by the blood-curdling scream echoing across the map. The killer, I would say, depends on sound even more than the survivors though. For example, if you have injured one of the survivors, you'll actually be able to hear them groaning in pain when nearby, even if they're hiding in a cupboard. Not to mention that you'll be able to hear generators starting to churn back to life just by walking around, alerting you to any survivor presence. Survivors do have a visual advantage over the killer though, being in a third-person view, allowing them to look around corners, while the killer is restricted to a first-person view. During a game, you'll be rewarded with blood points based on your performance as either a killer or as a survivor that can be later spent on upgrading your character through an interesting randomized web. Each individual survivor and killer has their very own blood point web, and while there are a couple of permanent upgrades, the majority of the unlocks will be consumable items that you can equip. For survivors, you have an item slot for things like flashlights that'll blind the killer when shined on their face, and toolboxes to repair generators faster, as well as being able to sabotage the killer's hooks so he can't use them. Then there are the add-ons that will increase your effectiveness with certain items, and even just general capabilities ever so slightly. Then there are the offerings that will actually change some of the map settings, like adding in more or less fog and changing the brightness of the moon. The same kind of consumables apply for the killer too. The permanent unlocks come in the form of perks, and for when the game releases, cosmetics too, of which there were a couple available to choose from during the beta. The perks consist of very small advantages that for the most part are fairly negligible. The amount of points you gain each match you play outside of private matches will also go towards your ranking in the game, with each survivor and killer beginning at rank 20 and requiring certain thresholds in your endgame points to gain a ranking level. When the game officially releases, there will be additional content available to play, including 2 more killers, with the Wraith and the Hillbilly joining the Trapper. 2 new map settings will also be introduced, from Autohaven Records to Coldwind Farms, with 4 procedural maps for each setting, bringing the total to 12 maps overall. Some extra features that would be a nice addition to the game that I hope do get added include a VoIP system for the survivors, so you can work together better, and even perhaps for the killer, for those that like to roleplay a little. Friend invites to lobbies is also a feature that should really be added to the game, as currently players will continually load in and out of lobbies hoping to randomly get in the same lobby as one of their friends. Altogether, Dead by Daylight provides an excellent atmosphere to play in, with gameplay that's intense and, at least for the survivors, requires a great deal of teamwork. If you like the idea of a multiplayer horror game and are a fan of competitive games, then Dead by Daylight is definitely a game worth checking out. Anyway, that's been my player preview for Dead by Daylight. The game is currently in closed beta till the 16th before officially releasing on the 18th of June for $30 or your regional equivalent. If you want to find out more about the game, check out the links below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.